Good morning, everyone. My name is Melanie and welcome back to A Slice of Heaven Homestead. Today I wanted to show you guys how to set up an irrigation system for your patio garden or raised garden bed. Now the first thing you need to decide is if you want to have a water timer. If you do, you need to pick out the one that's right for you. So this is the kind that we had last year, and it just has an option for a single watering, either daily, every other day, or every third day. Now last year I found out that because of the climate that we live in, it gets pretty toasty in the summertime, and also my garden is in full sun during the summertime, and so my grow pots tended to dry out a lot faster. I found out that I needed watering 2 times a day. So this year I got this off of Amazon. This one has an option of you can set the different run time that you want, but you can also set the frequency for in between every 1 hour and every week. So this will be good. I can set this for every 12 hours if I need to, and I will have that running sometime in the morning and sometime in the evening to give my plants a good watering, and I'll probably set it for 3 to 5 minutes. Now it was also important for me to find something that had a waterproof case on it, because if it's going to be out in the elements, I don't want the batteries to be rusting and this to break down without lasting. Okay, so first off, these will come with a battery compartment. Make sure to put your batteries in. Now I have this attachment here. I've got 2 different ways that my irrigation system is going to go. So I decided to get this kind of split valve right here. That is going to be attached right under here. Now the nice thing about this valve is you can control the water flow to the 2 different sections. So if you don't need quite as much water flow, if you don't have as many nozzles, it's gonna produce a bigger spray, and if you want to kind of tone that down, you can also adjust it from this junction right here. Now as you can see, I do have this irrigation system set up from last year, but because I moved a lot of my grow pots around to make space for some new grow pots and to expand my little patio garden this year, I'm gonna have to reevaluate my system from last year and cut things up, add a couple new things, and I will show you how to do that. Now we had a time of freeze this winter when we were actually out of town, and so I had no control over my watering system. I just, I couldn't turn it off, and so some of these pipes ended up, tubes, I don't know what to call them, they ended up freezing and splitting. Now because of that, I am going to start placing some new tube right about here. Just going to clip it. And this is 1/2-inch tubing. Now I'm going to have this 1/2-inch tubing running all the way to my water source. That's going to allow more water to get to where it needs to be. If you have a very big garden, maybe you're running this water to a raised bed, you might want to go a little bit bigger and try and find the 3/4 inch. Okay, I have these neat little connectors here made for the 1/2-inch irrigation tubing. And I'm going to be connecting these two with this. Now this tubing, sometimes it's a little bit hard, especially when the tube is cold. It's kind of hard to push that all the way in, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. So before I get started, I'm going to make sure to put this on. You just heat it up for like a second or two. Doesn't have to be too much. And it makes it very nice and pliable. Perfect. Go ahead and tighten that. And now it's secure, it won't come apart. Now instead of hooking it right back up to this old tubing, I'm going to be using some new tubing because this has some cracks in it. I'm not going to completely throw that away though. I will be able to salvage some pieces and stuff from it. But I'll be using this 1/2-inch tubing. Typically irrigation tube comes in black. But because I am out here in Japan, I just had to go with what I could find. And this is what I could find. This tubing is a lot sturdier than the black pipe, so I do have to warm it up a bit. Oops. Now when you are setting irrigation in your grow pots, you have to know kind of what you're going to be planting there, because there's several different methods of watering. So this one kind of comes out in like 8 different points, kind of like a sprinkler system. This one here has several holes punched in it all along, so you can place this however you want to in the pot. And this one over here just kind of sprays out all around. Now this pot has some little seedlings coming up. They are carrots and they're all just kind of dispersed around this pot. This sprinkler system is not going to be the best method of watering because it's not going to get all the way around to the edge, and if it does get all the way around to the edge, then the middle is not going to get enough water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade this out for this strand of irrigation tubing that has the holes punched through it, and that way I can disperse it. I can get it all the way to the edge and then wind it around and have it going into the middle. Now when you have a string of soaker tubing, we'll just call it soaker tubing with the holes in it, you need to be able to plug the end of it so that water doesn't just spray out the end and it'll drain through all of the holes through the tube. A lot of packs of irrigation that you can find on like Amazon will come with different attachments. These neat little plugs were some of the ones that I found. If you don't have those plugs, what you can do is you can crimp the end of it. I just folded this over and found a way to secure it. You can tie it up with wires if you got wires, just so that water doesn't spray out that end. Now as I'm setting this up, I'm going to try not to kill my little seedlings here. It's best to have the irrigation in place before you put the seeds in, but that just didn't happen this time. Now a lot of irrigation packs that you find on Amazon will come with these spikes. These are to hold the irrigation tubing in place. Okay, and on each of my grow pots I have poked a little hole right here for the tubing to go through. Okay, and with it set up like that, it should get an even watering all around the plant. Now for this other pot, I am going to be taking out this irrigation tube. And I will be replacing it with the one that we just took out of the other pot. I like this kind of irrigation for these plants. These are zucchini or yellow squash, I can't really remember. But this will get the water directly on the roots of all of the plants that I have in here. I don't need the water to spread all the way to the outside of the pot. Now when you want to connect these to the 1/2-inch tubing, there are several connections that you can use. This is just a 90-degree angle connection. There are T connections where you can have this going to the big tube and then 2 chutes off of the smaller tubing. And then there's also straight connectors. And I am going to put on one of these 90-degree angle 90-degree angle connectors. And then when I want to connect it to my tubing, I just have to poke a hole with this. Now there is a specific tool made for poking holes into this black tubing, but this blue stuff that I got here in Japan, it's a lot thicker, and so I need some different way of poking the hole into this tube. So I'll just show you real quick on this black tubing that I can no longer use. The tool, it looks a lot like this actually. You'll just poke it through into that. And then push the connector in. And that's that. That's pretty simple. Okay. Now on each of these connectors there is a built-in connector for this smaller tubing. Just give it a zap with some heat for like 2 seconds. There we go. Perfect. I'm only going to have a few of these connectors coming straight off of the hose, but I'm going to go ahead and install some more of these going on down the line and then around the corner. Now over here I have one of those T-junction connections. I'm going to be feeding water to 2 different pots here through the one tube. One problem that I did have to figure out last year is the more of the connections that you have just running off of the little tubing, the less water pressure you're going to have to each of your pots. So I would suggest not going over 2 per connection to the 1/2-inch tubing. Now when you come to the end of your irrigation line, you're going to want to crimp that off. I know they sell special plugs to go in the 1/2-inch tubing, but I do not have any of those, so I folded it over and secured it, and no water gets out of there, so this does the job. Okay guys, I have the irrigation all set up, and I have all the different tubes that I want, or all the different types of irrigation that I want in each pot. So now comes the fun part, and turning on the water to make sure that everything works the way it should. This is a bit high and that one is a bit low. These are nice because you can adjust the flow of the water. It's better. We'll open this up just a little bit. Perfect. Okay, so this issue needs to be addressed. Oops! Just got water all over my camera. This was one of the problem spots that I had last year, and it only got worse this winter when we had that freeze. So what I'm gonna do is clip the line right here and install one of these. Now moving on, some of these holes seem to be blocked. I want to unblock them, otherwise there's a part of my grow pot that won't be getting any water. Woo! That did it. There we go. Nice. Every once in a while, it's good to check on the flow of your water, especially in these little soaker hoses with the holes, because sometimes the mud can cake in there and cut off the water, and you want your plants to have a good drink every time that timer turns that hose on.
Thank you for joining me today. Spread a little kindness and encourage one another. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we hope you find your slice of heaven too.